A big move today by the Biden administration that could impact a key part of the president's electoral coalition, young voters. The White House says that 277,000 people will receive emails today saying that their student loan debts have been canceled. A total of $7.4 billion in debt wiped away. NBC's Monica Elba is at the White House. Eugene Daniels is the White House correspondent for Politico and an MSNBC political contributor. Okay, Monica, explain how this plan works. And I guess most important for people who are listening, who can expect to get that email today?
So this is a new plan, but it's really under existing student loan programs in terms of that forgiveness for that debt. And remember, we're talking about a couple different things here, Chris, because the president tried to put into place a more sweeping forgiveness plan that, of course, then was challenged by the Supreme Court. So they had to go back to the drawing board in some ways with the Department of Education and do this under a different regulation to try to get this across the finish line. And they were able to do that with what's known as the SAVE program. And so that now has been taking place in different phases. And now we expect it will actually go into full effect in July. And so even more people who are eligible could be receiving that kind of good news. But some of the folks who might be getting an email like that are public sector workers, teachers, disabled workers, and also those who have been defrauded by for-profit colleges. All of those kinds of categories and groups of people are now eligible to try to apply to that and be a part of this program to be eligible for that kind of forgiveness of their debt. But in total, the Biden administration is really touting the fact that they have been able to now forgive debt for more than 4 million people. But of course, the president has vowed that he wants to do that for many more millions who would like to see that kind of debt forgiven. And again, he's going to try to do that. And we know that they're still working on some other rules and regulations that could go into effect by the fall, but that isn't ironclad yet. So they're still working at this because they do know it's a huge issue for young voters, and they want to be able to say they're making progress on this ahead of November. Chris.
Yeah, we do know that, Eugene. Young voters are a critical part of the coalition. In 2020, our NBC News exit poll showed that between the ages of 18 and 29, voters preferred Biden to Trump by 24 points, 60 to 36%. And that group made up 70% of the electorate. So that's huge. Could this debt relief plan help shore up that vote?
Yeah, it could, because what we have heard from young voters, and not just in that first category, but also don't forget about us millennials, that group too, that has a lot of that debt. What we have been hearing from those voters is that they wanted to see the administration fight to try to continue to get rid of student debt, right? They knew that they knew what happened with the Supreme Court, but what they wanted to see was the administration try to be creative like they're doing now. Monica just talked about the many people, $153 billion in student debt. The administration is saying that they have figured out a way to forgive. And then other ways that they're trying to make payments much, much lower for people, make it easier to pay back some of those things that they can get rid of. The question is, how do you put this to people who maybe aren't paying attention right now? Just like a few minutes ago, the White House released a video with the vice president and the cast of A Different World, very iconic African-American TV show that was at Hillman College, a fake college, talking about and touting these kinds of numbers, touting all the student debt relief that they have worked on. And so you can see them trying to do things that make sure that they're reaching people that maybe aren't always paying attention to cable news, to Playbook, to the New York Times, those kinds of things, to let them know, hey, we are doing this. And look at people, some that, these folks from Hillman College, they're signing on as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the key groups, right? I think it was Wall Street Journal earlier this week did a poll, and that suggested that black men in particular are turning away from Joe Biden. I know our folks have gone into barbershops and talked to black men who have said, I voted for Joe Biden, but I don't think he's keeping his promises. Does the White House see that they have a messaging problem, that maybe folks don't realize what's in certain areas, what exactly is going on?
Yeah, I think they do, right? And it's the White House, it's the campaign, it's the Democratic Party writ large, right? When you talk across the board, they know that they have this problem. How to fix it is the real big question. The White House has had different types of events. Vice President Harris has done roundtables with young Black men who were small business owners, for example, talking about access to capital, hearing from them. You have the campaign that has an entire arm to reach out to Black voters. They know they have the issue. But the thing is, the Democratic Party has for years watched as they have seen Black men who typically vote for Democrats move a little bit away. It's not that they're all going to go and vote for Donald Trump, right? They're not worried about that. What the White House with this campaign is worried about is that those Black men and maybe even some of those Black women are actually going to just stay home and not vote at all, right? And in an election as close as we're expecting, every single vote counts, especially from the people that you are usually counting on to vote for you.
Eugene Daniels, Monica Alba, thank you both.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.